Uh, furious.
Yeah.
Absolutely furious at that pathetic excuse for the performance, in all honesty. Pathetic.
Brian,
Yeah,
do you
bro.
think was it worse than Brighton in the second half? Would you say?
Mate, do you know what? I don't even. We were so poor for in the fact you got to weigh this up, Marlon. Do you weigh it
Yeah.
up that second half performance against Brighton? Because obviously the first half was great, and
Yeah.
the second half was obviously shocking. Well, this first half was abysmal, and this second half was horrific.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? We didn't give away a win or a lead. Sorry, so it's kind of apple and oranges. But you know what? I mean, I'll break this down into Ange and the players. Now with Ange, and people know I still back Ange. I want us to keep a manager, whoever it may be, and give them the time that they need, rather than chopping and changing every so often. But if this club is so interested in data analytics for finding players, surely you could do data analytics on performances and realise away form is an issue. 3 Premier League wins away in a calendar year, and you're still trying this gun-ho approach. You've got to see, I've got to do something to change it. And what got to me about with Ange today is against West Ham and against AZ Alkmaar, he saw there were things that weren't right. And then he made changes at half time to correct it. And he saw there was an issue. Now, I'm sure us as fans all sat down at half time thinking, right, this game's got Pape Matar coming on at half time, or at least some changes to something. The fact there was absolutely nothing was just not on. It's unacceptable, in my opinion. But when it comes to these goddamn players, you got to remember 9 of them were rested.
Yeah.
These are 9 first teamers, and we all said we got to look about Ange and how he's going to do game management and everything. These are our first teamers. These are the bread and butter and the team that kind of picks itself, barring injuries or if he changes the midfield. They're fresh. They're walking around that pitch today like we were 3-0 up, not 1-0 down.
Agreed.
There was no passion, no desire, no commitment, no fight, no nothing. They just saunter around there. Mikey Moore making his debut at 17 years old. You think you'd go, right, we've got to help this guy out. He's Premier League debut now. All eyes are on him. And you look at it as well. I know you could just see it. All us Spurs fans, no matter where you are, on board, owners, manager, players, whatever, all saw it and probably thought, oh, here we go. They haven't won a game. Dr. Tottenham, here we go. We got to be there. We got to be strong. They're going to go for it.
Yeah.
These players walk in thinking, oh, they haven't won a game. This is a piece of piss. We'll just play our game, do our bit, take the 3 points. There is no accountability, but we'll see the players' social media. We come back harder. We'll fix up. We apologise. We learn. We grow. We do. And like Daniel, the first person said, there's no leaders in this team. None. Romero's all well and good to slap people around the head when they've scored a goal. But where's the motivation? Where's the fight? And another thing, which isn't a Tottenham team just now, a Tottenham team for as long as I can remember. Yesterday, every single result went in our favour.
Yeah.
Every single result went in our favour. And it's like, there you go, Tottenham. You can make a real impact in this game. Can really get ourselves back in contention for top 4, or at least back up to where we should be.
Yeah.
And they perform like that. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. There's no leaders. I agree that Ange needs to take some accountability for certain things. But for a long time now, we have our players that go on this pitch, and when we're playing the beautiful football, the good football, and things are going good and we're on top, they're everywhere to be seen.
Yeah.
But when the chips are down and a fight is needed,
That's true.
they are nowhere to be seen. Nowhere.
Brian, though, do you not count that down to slightly that Ange? That's down to Ange, though, because he brings the players in, and there's going to be moments like this throughout the season, right? We're not going to get the rub of the green every game. There's going to be Brightons. There's going to be things. So he brings in these players, and yet they're the ones not showing any fight. Isn't that fight and kind of thing going to come from the manager because that's the way the manager is?
Marlon, you're right there, and he should be rolling. Whether they're listening, whether that whatever, that we don't know what Angie's saying.
Of course,
and of course, you would say that as well. But you look at it, and you think, you know what? We all talk about spending the big money on the big players, and I sometimes talk about it. And when I say it, is some people say, "Yeah, look when we've gone big with Ndombele and it hasn't worked." But there's certain elite players or players that we could get that you're not just paying them money for their ability with what they could do with their feet. You're paying for their brain, their mentality, their dedication to training, everything that they do. And we just don't have them. We just don't have them. Do you know what I actually said to myself as well? I looked at the lineup and said, you know what? That bench is looking stronger than it ever has. Yes, it had Werner and Foster and David. But you look, there's Dragusin, there's Bentancur, there's Richarlison. There are players that can come on and make an impact. And you think, you know what? There's players that can come on and change that game. Not a single one of them did. And do you know who I feel sorry for? Dominic bloody Solanke. You buy this guy for £65 million to be the goal scorer. There is absolutely no doubt that his hold-up play, his bringing players into the game, his work is absolutely outstanding. And he was trying everything today. Still not a good performance for him, but you buy a guy for £65 million to score you the goals, but you never have him in the box to provide him the ammunition because you're too busy getting him to do the work outside. I just don't get it. I feel sorry for Solanke. Yes, he needs to score more goals. Yes, I still think he's done well for us. I think he's done very well for us, especially with his off-the-ball stuff and bringing players into the game. Yeah. But when you spend £65 million on a striker, you're buying him for one thing and one thing only, and it's to whack the goals. And we never get in a position to get them, do we?
No, we don't. Can I ask just something I've been thinking about, Brian?
Yeah.
Is it because Ange Postecoglou is so single-minded about this is how we have to play football, it has to be like this, and you've got to improve it and get better at this type of football particularly and specifically, and you know, even today in the quotes, I don't know if you heard me read out some of the quotes earlier, but he said that he was basically frustrated that we, in his opinion, allowed ourselves to get drawn into Crystal Palace's type of football, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. But is it that the players are having it drummed into them so regularly that this is the type of football and the patterns and the triangles and all that actually when it comes to it and you need to just roll your sleeves up and scrap, they don't know how to do it?
By the way, I think they could very much be a part of that. And I think we saw a lot of that in Coventry, didn't we?
Yeah.
But bear in mind, there were a lot of changes that game. And we're completely under cost. But do you know what? There's so many times I've heard from people like Tony Adams, Roy Keane, like these great leaders, that when they're under the cost, the manager has said one thing, but the players know what to do in a game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've played with other teams in other systems and grown up. They understand if they're under the cosh. Yes, the manager wants them to play one way, but Tony Adams was like, if we were in doubt, bang, out it goes, out into Rosed, throw in whatever, just to take the sting out, put in a challenge, do whatever, and then revert back to it. Now, I understand you've got the managers telling you what to do, and that's his job. But these players can say, right, this isn't working at the moment, guys. Let's just literally get the game back in control and then go for it. These players run away when the going gets tough.
Yeah,
Barnaby, Marlon, people in the chat, I think Basuma played well before he went off. He was his defensive work was doing more defensively than. But apart from Solanke doing what he was doing, I can't think of a single player that had an impact. And yes, Vicario made a couple of good saves, but I'll tell you what, how lucky was he that Eze was offside?
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're being a bit kind to Basuma. I didn't think he was that much cop, to be honest.
I think defensively he was getting about, but again, this a player that I've spoken about before. Wharton is a fantastic player, fantastic player at Crystal Palace, and like you said, Crystal Palace, you know they're coming for a fight. You know what that stadium is like if they go a goal up. They're itching for their first result of the season, their first win. you know when they've got that first goal, they're going to go in for it. They've got some big, strong players. And what did we do? Well, off you go. Just breeze through us.
I'm just going to say something mental, Brian, because in agreement with kind of what we've been talking about here. If Spurs draw Marine again in the FA Cup third round on a January night at their ground, which is like a fucking pigsty, are you trying to tell, not you trying to tell me, but are we going to see them try and play the ball across their back line to Vicario on his wrong side on a pitch where the grass is 3 inches taller than in the Premier League? Do you know what I mean? It's like what you're saying about Tony Adams and the great leaders and having to change it sometimes. Of course, that's a massive part of football. It's a massive part. You have to be able to change sometimes. And, you know, we might, you know, I know I'm being a bit ridiculous, but we might end up getting absolutely turned over by some non-league side because, you know, we're going to watch Vicario on his wrong foot trying to pass it into Basuma's feet or something.
Well, the silly thing about, like you said, is these why it's very, very easy for these players to say, yeah, we didn't do anything because the manager's asking us to do so.
Yeah.
And pass the buck. We know that players in this football club have got managers sacked. We know back in the day when we had the little bad eggs and whatever it may be. It's a continued thing at Tottenham Hotspur. It's a continued thing at Tottenham Hotspur. Now, what I will say is, if someone said to me, "You lose to Palace, but you go through in the Carabao Cup," or the other way round, we win at Palace and go out, I'm choosing this version, that we lose today. I've said it from the beginning of the season. Quite frankly, I don't care where we finish in the Premier League. Couldn't care. Yes, I don't want to finish in the bottom half or whatever, but all my eggs are in the cup.
But you're not telling me, Brian, that you can't see us putting out a first team and losing to their reserve team on Wednesday?
Listen, Manchester City say they're struggling for players and they're resting the road. Mate, even if they do, it'll still be a team that will probably make most people's first teams.
Yeah, their reserve team is absolutely full of 60 million pound players.
Exactly. So they'll do that. I will say, I heard you talking about if Fraser Forster was in goal when I was listening on the train home. Now, obviously, I fair play to him on Thursday. He made a couple of great saves. He did have a better performance than he did Coventry, but there is under no circumstances should he be starting against Manchester City. Under no circumstances.
Do you think, like I do, Brian, there's a chance that he got the game last Thursday because Ange's going to play Vicario on Wednesday? I
pray to God. And I pray to... And you know, the other worrying thing is you look at it, and those players that played Thursday, all right, AZ Alkmaar on Palace, they showed more fight, passion, desire, commitment than the players that are out there today.
I've got one more question for you, actually, Brian. I think you're the perfect man for this question. Daniel Levy has sacked managers many, many times when it looks like they're not going to get top four. Do you think he will be more patient with Ange this season than he has been previously?
As I've said before, I've said before, the sweet spot for Daniel Levy sacking managers in his second season is end of October, beginning of November. I don't think that's going to happen right now. I've said it before. One of the reasons, and it could have been any manager, not just Ange, I want to see a manager given time. I want to see a manager given time at Tottenham. Let's say Ange sees out his 4-year contract, and he does and he doesn't win anything, and then we part ways. You're like, do you know what? We gave a manager a chance. At least we did something different compared to 2 years sacking, 18 months sacking, 2 years sacking. Rearrange the players, another project, another rebuild, another whatever. I hope Ange gets given time. I do. Do I want to see Ange do certain things like he did against West Ham, bring Sarr on or Benson Core in that second half and shore that midfield up? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I want to see a manager given time. We've tried this 2 years. Oh, sorry, but one last week. We've tried this 2 years. It's brought us fuck all.
I agree with you, Brian. I agree with you. But if we lose to Villa next week, do you think there'll be a little bit of an itchy trigger finger from Levy thinking maybe there's a way to turn this round if I bring someone else in?
Would it cross his mind?
Yeah.
From what I've witnessed over the last 16... Oh, no. Now 17 years. Yesterday was 17 years to the day Yol got sacked. So 17 years of me being Levy out. Bloody hell, I'm almost out of my teenage years. Jesus Christ. I'll break out in acne soon. But do I think it across his mind? Yes. If we stop, the worrying thing for me, and the real worrying thing, Barnaby, is if Levy out starts getting chanted at any point, he will sack him.
Yeah.
So as much as I do want that man out, but won't speak about him morning, noon, and night anymore unless I need to, as much as I want to hear Levy out being sung, if it does get sung, Ange will pay. And I don't want him to pay. But we'll see. But let's just hope we get a win against Villa. Listen, Spurs, it's typical Spurs that will beat Man City, beat Villa after this defeat. It's just typical Spurs. Like when we beat Man City and then lost to Burnley. It's Spurs. Listen, that tags Spurs. He's coming back, isn't it? It's coming back. We shoot ourselves in the foot. When results go our way, we choke. When we play against teams where we should be winning, we choke. We give Mikey Moore the Premier League start we all wanted. We put in a performance like that. How's the man meant to have an impact when the team is so pathetic like that? And these, like I said, Ange needs to take some accountability, but these players need to fix up, grow some bollocks, and learn to fight and show a bit of desire, commitment, and passion to the cause.
Top man, Brian, legendary as ever. Thank you so much for calling in. Try and enjoy
See you
your
later,
night.
boys.